Hello and welcome to the case of Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe. This is presented by me, Kristen Thomas. The Santa Fe Independent School District is a district held in Santa Fe, Texas. Prior to 1995, part of the school's tradition was to have a Santa Fe high school student who occupied the school's elective office of student council chaplain deliver a prayer over the public address system before each varsity football game for the entire season. This practice, along with others, was challenged as a violation of the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. The case name was Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe. The participants in this case was the defendant being the Santa Fe Independent School District and the plaintiffs being Doe. Doe was the name used in this case for the plaintiffs. The plaintiffs wanted to remain anonymous. The plaintiffs included one Catholic family and one Mormon family. The date this case came to a decision was June 19, 2000, and the location it took place at was the U.S. Supreme Court. The school had a policy where the student body could vote to have a prayer for sporting events. Then after that, students would vote on a student to deliver the prayers. That student would pray over the loudspeaker for all to hear before every varsity football game. The Does, being one Mormon family and one Catholic family, sued to prohibit this practice as they claimed it violated the First Amendment. The question here for this case is, does the Santa Fe Independent School District policy permitting student-led, student-initiated prayer at football games violate the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment? In a 6-3 opinion delivered by Justice John Paul Stevens, it was decided that the student-led, student-initiated prayer before the varsity high school football games is a violation of the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. The first reasoning of this case was this: a delivery of an invocation on school property at school-sponsored events over the school's public address system by a speaker representing the student body under the supervision of school faculty and based on a school policy that expressly encourages public prayer is not private speech. It is government-sanctioned speech which violates the Establishment Clause. The second reasoning was this: the Lee v. Weissman case guided the decision. It held that the school's action must not coerce anyone to support or participate in a religious exercise. The Lee v. Weissman case held that a prayer delivered by a rabbi at a middle school graduation ceremony violated that clause. So, this decision was applied to the Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe case. The third reasoning was this: football games are not entirely voluntary. There are some students, like cheerleaders and team members, who must attend and even get course credit for doing so. Plus, the school ignores the obvious social pressure or genuine desire to participate in American high school football games. Students should not have to choose between attending games and avoiding a religious ritual for which they do not want to be a part of. Being that the school district is a public school, there should have been no prayer. There could have been a general message delivered that would not favor specific religions. With it being a public school, religion should not be involved unless mentioned for educational purposes. When voting whether to do a prayer at sporting events and to select a student to deliver the prayer, there was a majority vote. This means there were other people who did not agree. Their thoughts were not taken into consideration, so this was an unfair event. Lastly, I do agree with the outcome of this case. It used and holds the values of the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. I will remember this case, as I will make sure to keep religion separate from a public school I teach at unless it is for educational purposes. James Madison once said, "Religion and government will both exist in greater purity the less they are mixed together," and this still holds true today. It is important as educators, especially those involved in public education, to take into consideration the backgrounds of students you see every day. With the Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe case and other cases dealing with public education religion, we see what problems may occur.